In the morning hall, my eldest sister was dressed in plain mourning and knelt down in front of me, who was so high above her, with a feeling of reluctance. She was jealous that I was able to marry a good man and become the queen despite having only one life. So they tricked me into going to the backyard and burned me to death with a big fire. After her rebirth, my elder sister went to rescue Prince Chi first and boasted to me after she succeeded. In this life, it's my turn to be extremely rich. She deliberately stole my life without knowing it. The road to succession is arduous and filled with bones. But Prince Chi is cruel, violent, and has shocking habits. How can he be a good man? I was reborn at a palace banquet during the imperial court rebellion. When the crown prince led his troops into the palace dinner, my eldest sister Shinran and I, just like in our previous life, took advantage of the chaos to hide among the rockery in the imperial garden. But in the next second, her hairpin was against my throat. Shinyanha, stay here obediently and don't go anywhere. If you dare to leave the rock, I will use the hairpin in my hand to pierce your throat. The hand holding the hairpin was trembling visibly, and her eyes were filled with uncontrollable excitement and nervousness. In this life, I am the one who saved King Chi. Don't even think about arguing with me. Prince Chi is mine, and all the glory and wealth are mine too. The cold moonlight made the madness on her face look pale, and the golden hairpin unknowingly pierced into my flesh. The pain brought me back to my senses, and I realized that Shinran was also reborn. Pain. The hairpin penetrated deeper into her flesh, reflecting in her eyes a chilling ghost-like look. I narrowed my eyes and stepped back a little, putting on a humble and submissive look so that Shinran would let down his guard. Sister D, save whoever you want to save. Why make things difficult for me? I won't stop you. Shinran was stunned, obviously doubting whether I was also reborn. He said with a weak voice, You are not going to save Prince Chi? I turned sideways to make way, and sure enough, I saw Shinran's face lit up with joy. She rushed out without hesitation. That direction was exactly the route that Prince Chi would take to lead his troops to rescue the emperor. You gave up on your own. Don't blame me in the future. Just wait. In this life, I will be the queen. Shinran laughed wildly, but my heart gradually sank. It turns out that what Shinran wanted to seize was my glorious life in my previous life. But how could she know that saving Prince Chi was only the first step in her journey of overcoming numerous dangers? Every day from now on, she will be accompanied by endless regrets. And Prince Chi is not a good match at all. What she thought was great wealth and the fate of a queen was obtained at the cost of my life. What she thought about the emperor and empress being of one mind and loving each other till old age was all bullshit. The last time I met Shinran in my previous life was not a pleasant one. It was at the funeral hall where her husband, King Chung, was buried. At that time, as the queen, I walked down from the winding bright yellow ceremonial procession, faced the kneeling officials, walked with dignity, passed by my father, mistress, and Shinran who were kneeling in a row, and then entered the mourning hall. On behalf of my husband, the current Emperor Qizhan, I offered a stick of incense to King Qingyuan. The mistress, who used to look down on me because of my concubine's birth, cautiously watched my expression and asked me about the grand events in the palace with an apologetic smile. I answered each word in a thoughtful manner. Your Majesty is in charge of everything in and out of the palace. I don't have to worry about it. Naturally, everything is fine. All the courtiers and ladies were envious. Your Majesty's love for the queen is so deep and touching. Just the fact that the 6 harems are vacant and only the empress is favored is a blessing that many people dare not even dream of. The empress is virtuous and dignified. The emperor and empress are of one mind, and they benefit all the people. This is a blessing to the world. Your Highness is a blessed person, and you have entered the door of blessing. The mistress replied awkwardly. Yes, you are still lucky. You married a man of your dreams and are destined to be rich and powerful. Unlike Ran, who has a miserable life. Shinran was dressed in plain clothes, looking pale and haggard, kneeling in a corner behind the crowd. When she heard the mistress mention her, she suddenly looked up. In the brief moment when he looked into my eyes, his scarlet eyes were filled with resentment and hatred. I know that an incense stick ago, when the mistress advised her to be polite, she sighed. She is lucky. She married the unpopular Prince Chi, but she was held in the palm of her hand and finally became the ruler of the world. My daughter was born a beautiful lady, but she married a sickly woman. Not only did she not get the position of imperial concubine, but she also became a widow at an early age. If we had not coveted the status of the legitimate son of the king, but had chosen the unknown King Chi, my son's talent and virtue would have been 100 times more dazzling than her. Shen Xinran knelt on the cushion with his head down, filling the brazier with handfuls of yellow paper. The fire flickered, and his expression could not be discerned. The hand that was clutching the hem of her skirt was turning pale blue, and she didn't let go. She has always been proud. How could she be willing to be suppressed by me? But she lost to fate. Although Prince Chung was a legitimate son, he was too weak. After marrying Shen Xinran, he became so ill that he rarely even attended the morning court. Within 3 years, he passed away, leaving behind the huge palace and Shen Xinran. After the incident that day, she sent everyone away under the pretext of chatting with sisters, coaxed me to go to the backyard, but ordered people to lock the door and set it on fire. The flames shooting up into the sky magnified the hatred and madness on her face several times. You, the sword of slavery, want to step on my head. You are not worthy. You will never be worthy. A raging fire burned my life. The mistress was sentenced to death for her crime, and her father begged for mercy for her using the Shin family's generations of merit. Emperor Qi Zhan spared her life, but built a Buddhist temple on the spot and ordered her to pray for me every day and seek a next life for me. What she prayed for day and night while kneeling before the Buddha was a rebirth. She wanted to be the one who could control her own destiny. In the moonlight, I looked back and saw her blushing figure walking farther and farther away, finally disappearing into the indelible night. I also turned around and walked in the opposite direction from her, choosing another possibility. When Shen Xinran knelt before the emperor with her hand covering her bleeding shoulder, I knew she had succeeded. The crown prince was executed, and Prince Qi was rewarded with honor for rescuing the emperor. He became the most famous person for a time. As the benefactor of Prince Qi, Shen Xinran's status naturally rose with the tide. On the carriage back to the palace, Shen Xinran held her neck high and laughed at me contemptuously. Your Majesty will issue an edict to grant us marriage soon, and then I will become the Princess of Qi. In this life, you can only kneel at my feet forever. Thinking of the years that I spent hand in hand with Prince Qi, I can't help but break out in a cold sweat. In the eyes of the world, he is truly outstanding in every way, handsome, affectionate, wise, and gentle. But people in the world are not the one who sleeps with you, so they don't know how terrible the true face beneath the gorgeous clothes is. King Chung may not be a bad person, and King Qi may not be as good as you think. Sister, you've been so busy. I'm afraid you'll end up with nothing. Shut up. Before I could finish my words, Shen Xinran's vicious eyes fell on my face like a knife. I know this 100 times better than you do. If you dare to plot against Prince Qi, I will make sure you die without a burial place. In this life, I will never be a widow. Prince Qi's preference, the phoenix carriage in the Forbidden City, it is my turn now. Whoever dares to snatch it from me, I will kill him. What I can't do, my father will take care of for me. You should know that. The madness on her face and the determination in her expression made it impossible for anyone to persuade her. After returning home, stay in the backyard obediently. If I find out that you dare to flirt with Prince Qi, all the sword girls in your yard will have no need to live. She was determined to marry Prince Qi. As a younger sister, of course I have to give my blessing. With a sneer on my face, I replied sincerely, I hope everything you wish for will come true, sister. The only thing she should do is not cry and say she regrets after everything she asked for is granted. After returning home, Shen Xinran knelt in front of her father, begging him to change her engagement with King Chung to King Chi. My daughter has fallen in love with Prince Chi and will not marry anyone else but him. The father was full of helplessness. Ranran is confused. King Chung is the legitimate son of the Queen Mother, so he is the legitimate heir. How could you give up the position of imperial concubine that is within your grasp and marry the unpopular Prince Chi? Shen Xinran's past life's grievances and this life's resentment all fell on her face and hit her chest one by one. My daughter loves Prince Chi. I am willing to marry him whether he is rich or poor. Besides, with my father's mediation, Prince Chi's chances of winning are not small. My father took a deep breath but didn't say anything. He regarded Shen Xinran as the apple of his eye and would fight for her whatever she wanted. Even the engagement with King Chung was arranged by my father, who knelt in front of my grandmother for an hour at the request of Shen Xinran and her daughter, forcing her to ask for the Queen Mother's grace despite her serious illness. But after traveling back and forth in the heavy snow, my grandmother fell ill and passed away after returning home. At that time, Shen Xinran was holding the Queen Mother's decree granting marriage with a face full of joy. She can use her old life to exchange for the prosperity of the Shen family. Even if she goes to see the ancestors, she will be proud. I just don't know how my father felt at this moment, seeing that the marriage contract that my grandmother had exchanged her life for was thrown away by Shen Xinran. Father, King Chung is just a sickly man. No matter how noble he is, we don't know how long he will live. Are you pushing your daughter to be a widow just for your own power and wealth? Daddy kept saying that he loved me, but it was all lies. I don't want you anymore. I don't like Daddy anymore. Her father was distressed and angry, but there was nothing he could do about her. I stepped forward and slapped her hard in the face. Shen Xinran covered her cheek with her hands, her eyes gleaming with ferocity. Why did you hit me? She is just a concubine's daughter born to a slave. You dare to hit me? Are you looking for death? Father, punish her. You want her to die, let her die. Shen Xinran rolled around with gnashing teeth, but I was not afraid at all. Facing my father's cold gaze, I said word by word, "Curse the prince, you are a traitor. I am afraid that the slap I gave you is too light. If what I said today gets to the ears of the empress, not only you, but also my entire Shangshu mansion will be in trouble." My father's words of scolding me stopped at the corner of his mouth. No matter how much he favored Shen Xinran, he knew that as a subject, the most important thing was to remember his status and not overstep his boundaries. Father, are you not going to take care of it? Are you going to let Ranran be bullied by a swordsman? I know that father favors He Tanjiwen. Even if he wrongs me, he won't let her down. If that's the case, father will just wait to send a corpse to Qingwangfu. With tears in her eyes, Shen Xinran confronted her father stubbornly and resolutely, as if she would not give up unless her father agreed today. My father's fists were clenched so tightly that veins bulged, but he was in a dilemma and didn't know what to do. Just obey her, and I will marry her if she becomes king. As soon as he finished speaking, the whole room fell silent. Ridiculous. How can a concubine like you be qualified to marry a prince who is born in the imperial harem? Shen Xinran's face lit up, and he knelt down in front of his father, pulling his clothes and begging. He is just a sickly prince, and it is decent enough to give him a concubine's daughter to bury with him. Father, please don't hesitate. If you insist on forcing me to be a widow, you might as well poison me to death directly. I have always known that whatever Shen Xinran wants, my father will definitely plan for him. However, if such a plan falls upon the royal descendants, it is tantamount to gambling with one's head hanging on one's waist. Her father stared at her for a long time. It was so long that I thought time had stopped before I heard his cold voice falling on my head. Your sister has raised you up, so don't forget her kindness in the future. If Ranran wants it, even if it means losing my Shangshu mansion, your father will fight for her. The cold wind penetrated my sleeves, making me shiver. Indeed, he has always been just Shen Xinran's father. If not for this, in my last life, when I knelt before him and begged him to save me from the dire straits, how could he have been willing to abandon me and let me suffer the consequences of losing my left ear and having my toes broken? but I will never forget their great kindness. Finally, after her father went to Prince Chi's mansion, the elder sister got the imperial decree granting her marriage to Prince Chi as she wished. She came to my yard with a bright yellow imperial edict. Prince Chi is handsome and has great ambitions. He is the perfect match for me. King Chung has a short life. You'd better kneel before the Buddha and pray day and night, asking King Chung to live for 2 more years. Don't let you bear the reputation of being a widow. I smiled without saying anything and lowered my head to embroider my wedding dress. Because the road to succession is so difficult, it is still unknown how far Shinran can go. However, Prince Chi was violent by nature and had a homosexual tendency, so how could he be a good man? That day, when the heavy snow had just stopped, Prince Chizhan of Qi came with gifts to thank Shinran for his rescue. Shinran was afraid that I would resort to despicable means to snatch away her good marriage and happy life, so she specifically asked the mistress to keep me in the backyard and not allow me to show up. He even ordered his servants to burn all the pink clothes in my room. It was because Chizhan in his previous life, in order to express his deep affection, said in front of all the civil and military officials in the court, "When I first saw the queen, I was dazzled by her peach blossom red and stole my heart. It is my luck to be able to spend my life with the queen. As for offspring, I really can't bear to see the queen suffer the pain of giving birth, so let it go." At that time, because Shinran's stomach had not shown any signs of pregnancy, the Empress Dowager sent her bowl after bowl of tonic, which made her face turn pale, and she cried over and over again while holding on to her mistress. It's my turn to have this kind of blessing. She was dressed in peach blossom red, with a shy look on her face, playing the piano and brewing tea, with Chizhan in the pavilion in the middle of a lake. It was a poetic and picturesque scene, so beautiful. She blushed and took her arms around Chizhan's waist, pouring out her heartfelt feelings to him, but she was completely unaware of Chizhan's cold eyes. He did not like the red color of peach blossoms, as he thought it was vulgar, voluptuous, and low-key, just like his fawning dancer mother. He just didn't want me to wear the red clothes of the main wife and hurt other people's eyes, so he forced me to wear the pink clothes of the concubine every day. But Shinran doesn't understand anything. Chizhan suppressed his nausea and pushed her away, then walked into the backyard under the pretext of having to go to the bathroom, but bumped into me under the plum tree. His face was gentle, like a gentleman, but I could clearly see the flash of boredom in his eyes. This prince is rude and does not know where he is coming from. I hope the young lady can give me some advice. I quietly took 2 steps back, deliberately turned sideways to avoid looking at him, called the maid over, and had her take Chizhan to the pavilion in the middle of the lake, for fear of having anything to do with him again in this life. Just as Chizhan's figure disappeared around the corner, Shinran suddenly appeared behind me. "So, you seduced him after all?" She stared at me fiercely, and her hands under her long sleeves were shaking uncontrollably. I knew she had fallen into madness and didn't want to pay attention to her, but she blocked my way. "He is already mine. Why are you still holding on to him? It was me who saved him, and it is only me that he loves. You shouldn't appear in front of him, let alone seduce him and entangle him. You dirty his eyes. You deserve to die." She went crazy and struggled with me hysterically, and even put her hands around my neck when she was excited. I held the dagger in my sleeve in my palm, just an inch away from piercing Shinran's chest. Of course, Chizhan suddenly appeared, and I quickly withdrew my hands. He held Shinran's trembling body in his arms and soothed her softly. "This king only cares about you. No one can take you away. Be good." Shinran was like a cat with its fur stroked, hiding in Chizhan's arms and sobbing obediently. I just care about you too much." "I know, and I am very happy. He is well-behaved, sensible, and easy to control, and he has the support of his father, the Shangshu, so he is really happy." That evening, my father punished me by making me kneel in the ancestral hall and reflect on my mistakes without asking me any reason. I stood there without moving. My aunt is waiting for me in the yard to embroider my wedding dress. How does my father plan to let his daughter deal with my aunt? My aunt belongs to the queen. My father forgot, but I must remind him that I am already the future daughter-in-law of the queen mother, and he cannot punish me at will. Good, very good. If you are wronged in the future, don't come back and cry. Your father can't control you. I never cared about it in my previous life, and I will never have such delusion in this life. The wedding dress that my 3 aunts and I worked day and night to make was ultimately not worn by me. The day before my wedding, my beautiful wedding dress with gold thread and pearls was torn to pieces by a night owl. Shin Shinran looked at the pile of rags at her feet, full of pride and arrogance. The wedding is coming up, and ruining the wedding dress is probably a bad omen. But it doesn't matter. Mother has a ready-made set in her storeroom. We can use it to get into the bridal sedan tomorrow. Dark red, old pendant, and large size. When I wear it, I look like a female ghost who died before she was young and was forced to marry someone else. Sister, this outfit really suits the prince.
Huh?
His father and mistress watched coldly, condoning Shin Shinran's despicable behavior. I breathed a sigh of relief and then smiled. Since it is a blind wild cat, it will definitely not just pounce on my wedding dress. I wonder if my sister's wedding dress is still safe. Shin Shinran hasn't realized what my words mean yet. He just thinks it's funny. Of course. After all, I am different from you, and my mother will take good care of me. My storeroom is locked tightly. Not even a fly can get in. The mistress's face changed when she heard this, but before she could react, she heard a servant come to report that the eldest lady's storehouse had caught fire, and her wedding dress and dowry were all lost. Fire represents wealth. My sister will definitely become very rich. It's you, isn't it? You swordsman. You destroyed my wedding dress and dowry. I will tear you to pieces. Shin Shinran explodes easily, having lived 2 lifetimes without making any progress. My aunt stopped me and said, Miss Shin is joking. Miss Shun has been accompanying this old servant to collect her dowry and has never left the courtyard. It's her. She wants revenge on me. That's enough. Shin Shinran wanted to continue to argue, but was shouted away by his father. The most urgent thing is to make up for the dowry and prepare wedding clothes. The rest is not important. My father looked at me deeply before coaxing Shin Shinran out of my yard.
So, what if it's me?
You dare not throw dirty water on me without evidence. They don't know me. Even when I was in control of the harem, I was unwilling to suffer any loss. Half an hour later, Prince Cheng's mansion sent 10 wedding dresses for me to choose from. The person who came was a servant of Qi Yuan, and he said something particularly infuriating in front of everyone in the mansion. The prince said that the kittens in the Shin mansion are very naughty. We have prepared 10 sets here. If they are not enough, there are more in the palace. The prince can find as many as the young lady wants. The prince also said that without destruction there is no construction, which means everything is moving towards a new beginning, which is a good omen. Shin Shinran was so angry that he smashed half of the yard, but it didn't help. The wedding dress that she hastily altered, like her stolen marriage, seemed glorious, but was in fact shabby in every way. Don't think you can step on my head just because you marry King Cheng. You know, King Cheng was unlucky and didn't become the emperor in the end. He also died of illness in the courtyard at an early age. You've fallen into this trap yourself and are willing to be a widow. This is your fate. I met her provocation head-on, and I just felt that I, as the eldest sister, was quite naive. King Cheng is certainly not destined to live a long life, but if I had my mind, he would surely live longer than King Qi. That's what my sister said. Maybe he was dissatisfied with my indifferent attitude. Shin Shinran cursed, "You sword-wielding thing," and left angrily with a sneer. After she was completely gone, I shouted to the seemingly empty roof, "Come out." Shin Yuan's bodyguard Xialing Yun flew up and landed from the roof. The prince thanks the young lady for saving his life and has come to ask her, if she regrets this, there is still room for her to change her mind. I shook my head and replied firmly, "He doesn't mind that I am not presentable, so how can I mind that he is not good enough? You don't have to say anything else." After I marry him, let him tell me in person." Xialing Yun was greatly relieved, bowed, and instantly disappeared. Shen Xinran seemed to be particularly afraid that I would do something on the wedding day, and she begged the mistress to send someone to watch me personally as I walked step by step into King Qingqi Yuan's big red sedan chair. "You chose this dead end yourself. You can't blame me." How does she know that the path I chose is not the smooth one? I entered Prince Cheng's palace with 88 loads of solid dowry. My father wanted to just do superficial work, but I deliberately invited the palace's housekeeper to keep an eye on it personally. He couldn't save face, so he had to collect the full 88 loads. 20 of them were taken from Shen Xinran's dowry. She was so angry that she vomited blood and cursed my ancestors' graves until they were smoking, but I didn't give in. Those are the capital for me to enjoy wealth and prosperity in the future, and I will not let go of even a single cent of them. It was not until my veil was lifted by Shen Yuan that I actually met my brother-in-law from my previous life and my husband in this life. He had a pale face, and his coldness carried a hint of frailty. Even though it was April, he was still wrapped in a thick cloak. Because he had taken some medicine to stay awake to complete the wedding ceremony, thin beads of cold sweat oozed from his tired forehead. Seeing that I was still staring at him, he actually laughed out loud, and his cold eyes curved into a beautiful crescent. "Are you disappointed?" The husband I carefully selected turned out to be a weak and sickly person. I never met him in my previous life, and I didn't know he was so handsome. The flickering candlelight ignited a ray of starlight in his eyes, highlighting his clear contours and deep eyebrows, making them look even more delicate. "King Cheng, don't you blame me for plotting your marriage?" He handed the wedding wine to my hand, smiling faintly. "As your sister said, it is unknown how long I can live. Being able to find a way out for second Miss Shen can also be considered as accumulating some merit for my next life. Moreover, if it weren't for the young lady's generous help during the palace turmoil, I would have been ill for a year or so." On the day of the palace turmoil, Shen Xinran was in a hurry to snatch my marriage. She forgot that King Cheng in his previous life gave all his guards to her, and that he was in danger and stabbed, which accelerated his death. In this life, the knife that day just stopped at his chest, and the man holding the knife was killed by my hairpin. I took the glass and drank the wine in it. "I'm just repaying a favor. That's what I do. But you helped me burn Shen Xinran's dowry and gave me 10 wedding dresses. That's enough to make it even." King Cheng grinned and drank it all in one gulp. "What you said is all good." Although he was short-lived, he was an extremely gentle person. After drinking only one glass of wine, he covered his chest and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The bright red wedding dress was stained with blood. King Cheng gasped and apologized to me. "I'm sorry. I brought bad luck to you on such a happy day." He was still holding my hand, but he fell into a coma. I was wearing my wedding dress, standing by his bed, watching the imperial physician from the palace examine him, give him acupuncture, and then make medicine for him. This is how we spent our wedding night. Although there was no wedding night and no tenderness and care, I felt unusually at peace and contented. Thinking back to my previous life, on our wedding night, Prince Qizhan put a heavy iron chain around my neck and dragged me step by step into a secret room that was like an abyss. Under the whip, I watched him and his so-called guard being very close and intimate. If you hadn't insisted on sending me here, I wouldn't have stuffed all my beloved ones into the secret room. Do you know your mistake? I was hit on the head by the huge shock. I was dazed and looked at their disgusting behavior, unable to recover. However, his uncle dragged him to the corner of the wall by an iron chain and poured a basin of cold water over him from head to toe. "The prince is asking you a question, and I know I am wrong." I held back the trembling all over my body and begged bitterly, "I know I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Your Majesty, please spare my life." Prince Qi slowly walked up to me, still with the smile on his face that greeted guests during the day. "From now on, you will call yourself a slave in front of me. They are all my beloved children. You must not neglect them. Remember, be good." Only then did I realize that the husband I married was actually a devil. I just wonder if Shin Shinran was satisfied with Prince Chi's performance on the wedding night. The next day, Shun Yuan woke up and saw me still standing by the bed. He was obviously very surprised. "Why don't you go to rest?" When he lowered his head and saw my hand being tightly held by him, his ears turned red instantly. My lord, it was not intentional. If there's a next time, just let go." He lowered his head and didn't dare to look me in the eye. He just clumsily put an emerald green bracelet on my wrist. It may not be very valuable, but it was left by the Empress Dowager. "I'll leave the future of Chengwang Mansion to you. I have already explained in advance that after the princess enters the palace, all matters, big or small, inside and outside the palace will be subject to her." My heart moved, and I blurted out, "Aren't you afraid that I am only after the power and wealth of your palace?" He looked me in the eye and said, "What else? Are you trying to take advantage of my weak body?" Admittedly, I wanted to get promoted, get rich, and live a free life after my husband died. Especially since the Chung Palace is wealthy and I am a legitimate second-rank princess. I don't have to respect my parents-in-law, serve my husband and children, and my father respectfully calls me princess. This kind of divine and beautiful thing is of course what I have been longing for, as I have exhausted all my energy in my previous life. But King Chung, his honesty makes me feel guilty. After much hesitation, I finally spoke my heart out for the sake of the bracelet. "When the imperial physician examined you last night, I saw very clearly that he hid one of the needles when he inserted it. That's why your chi stagnation and blood stasis never got better. Your health deteriorated and finally, in the end, he died of illness." He was not surprised at all, and even understood it very well. "Don't let anyone else know about this kind of thing. If you want wealth, honor, and freedom, just hold on for a year or two. When I recover from my illness, you'll have it all." The breakfast that day was the most sumptuous one I had had since my rebirth, but I couldn't enjoy the food as I was still thinking about King Cheng's words in the morning. He is gentle, but also courageous, and 3 times more tragic than I knew. When I returned home 3 days later, Qi Yuan had to give me acupuncture and medicine before he could go out. Therefore, when I got back to the mansion, Prince Qi and his wife had already arrived. Even outside the door, one could hear Shin Shinran's chattering laughter. "Mother Ranran is not naughty at all. Look at you. You're already a princess, but you're still so childish." "It doesn't matter. No matter what the princess does, I like her." Looking at the hand tightly held by Prince Qi, trembling inaudibly, I curled the corners of my mouth. Sister is blessed with great fortune, and finally found her ideal husband. Shin Shinran's smile froze on her face, but she stood up with Qi Zhan and bowed to Qi Yuan and me. The room was silent, no longer as lively as before, so the mistress pulled Shin Shinran and I back to the backyard to chat. Shin Shinran took off his mask and roared hysterically, "You know everything, right? Why didn't you tell me? So you just watched me rescue him, didn't you? You want to see me live a life worse than death, right? It's you who killed me. You evil swordsman." I looked at her with a smile. "No one forced you, it was your own choice." But he is obviously a gentleman, loyal and affectionate, wise and elegant, and dotes on me to no end. Even if I openly keep a male lover and am ridiculed by everyone, he will stand up to me without hesitation and defend me, right? Something in her eyes was breaking, but my smile grew wider. But those so-called male favorites are all his favorites, and the so-called deep love and loyalty are just his means to deceive others. "You are stupid, so you believed it." She screamed and yelled, telling me to shut up and get out. Finally, the mistress was alarmed. "Of course. How can you be rude to Princess Chung?" She held Shin Shinran's hand, her eyes full of exhortation and warning. "After all, I am a second-rank princess from the imperial palace, and I am far superior to her. Sister, aren't you happy that you got what you wanted? It was you who knelt before father and begged him that day. Now that you see how gentle and handsome my husband is, are you regretting it? You swordsman, I will tear your mouth apart, Who dares to touch my princess?" Behind Qi Yuan followed Qi Zhan, who had a sullen look on his face, and his father, who had a frown on his face. He slowly came to me and put a cloak on me. "It's windy, don't seek coolness." Then he turned around and bowed slightly to his father. "Princess, you are very magnanimous and can swallow any grievance. I am not in good health and cannot stand being offended. Now I am panicking and my hands are shaking. I can only return home quickly and ask my mother to send someone to see a doctor. I won't bother you anymore.
Goodbye."
If the Empress Dowager is alarmed, the matter will not end well. Not to mention how much trouble it would cause to Prince Qi's mansion. Shinran himself would also be punished. Qijan was still immersed in the conversation between Shinran and me. He suppressed his anger and did not make excuses for Shinran. Shinran's face turned pale, and he could only look to his father for help. The father clasped his hands together and came to Qiyuan to beg. "I have failed to teach properly and offended the prince and princess. I beg the prince to forgive my fault." Qiyuan gave him a false support but took 3 steps back. "I cannot accept such a great gift from you. I only ask you to consider that my princess is also from the Shin family and protect her as well." After saying that, he walked around his hunchbacked father, took my hand and walked away, giving me enough dignity. Shortly after returning home, a servant came to report that Prince Qi and his wife had just returned home after lunch. When returning home, the Shin family sent 3 maids to help, saying that the princess was young and inexperienced and needed the maid's assistance. She even sent someone to deliver a letter to me, but she did not mention a word about the insults Shinran had inflicted on me during the day. She only said that her sister missed home very much and asked me to visit her more often when I had time. I lit the letter, watched the so-called family affection turn into ashes bit by bit, and smiled with tears in my eyes. The hand of the abyss held my trembling body and said, "Cry when you are sad. From now on, the palace will be your home." I looked up at the frail man in front of me, and my heart was desolate. He said this is my home? But he doesn't know that even though I have lived 2 lifetimes, I have never had a home. In my previous life, I also knelt in front of my father on the day of returning to my parents' home and poured out all the grievances that were difficult to express to him, only asking him to do something for me because I was also his daughter. But he had a cold face at that time and left me with a stern back. "Once you marry King Cheng, you belong to King Cheng's palace. Disputes between husband and wife are not worth bringing up in public. Your aunt passed away early, and she was not as well educated as Ranran after all. That's all I have to say. It's getting late. Don't delay the prince's return home." At that time, facing my father's indifference and cruelty, I could only wipe away my tears, grit my teeth, push open the door of the study, and get on the carriage with Qijan with a forced smile. Because I had no way out and no one cared about me, I could only stick my neck out and hold back my ruthlessness to compete with Qijan. In the end, I made Qijan admit defeat at the cost of my left ear being beaten to the point of deafness and one of my toes being broken. Now, the same experience has befallen Shinran. Even if he has to bear the reputation of spoiling and absurd, he still wants to protect her. He even sent me a letter overnight, asking Qiyuan and I to visit Prince Qi's mansion more often to visit my sister. He just wanted to use the momentum of my Chunwang mansion to warn Qijan and support Shinran. It's not that he doesn't know how to be a father, it's just that he has never once wanted to be my father. "Do you want to be emperor?" Qiyuan was so shocked by my sudden words that his face turned pale. He wanted to speak, but a mouthful of blood blocked his chest, and he fainted immediately. Xiaolingyun wanted to ask the imperial physician, but I stopped him. "Prepare some hot water. I'm going to go out for a while. When I come back, I want to see the prince soaking in hot water." It only took me 1 stick of incense to go from the palace on East Street to the herbal medicine shop on West Street and back. When the ancestral golden needles borrowed from shopkeeper Tong were inserted into Qi Yuan's 7 meridians and 8 vessels, he finally woke up in sweat. It was at this moment that I realized that my back was already wet. Why didn't you obey and act on your own? I hope you can live the rest of your life in peace. I want to thank you for protecting me in the Shin family today. Besides, I see that you are still somewhat useful, and I don't want to be a widow anymore. This one sentence made Qi Yuan stunned on the spot. No one has ever truly protected me. If you want to do it, you should do it thoroughly. After a long silence, he saw my dirty shoes and asked, I heard from Ling Yun that you run very fast, faster than his martial arts masters. Why is that?
Why?
To pay my respects to the mistress from my remote courtyard, I have to pass through 3 corridors and 2 large courtyards. If I received her message and failed to arrive in time, I would be punished by fasting for a day. My grandmother protected me, but the mother next to her was the mistress's person, and she tried every means to make things difficult for me. The medicine bowl was brought to the table, and then I was asked to serve the medicine. If I wasn't quick enough, the medicine would get cold, and my grandmother's heart would get cold too. This is my only support, so I dare not slack off. Why do I run so fast? Maybe it's because I've fallen so many times, and I know that only by running steadily ahead of others at every step can I earn that tiny bit of light. For those who don't have an umbrella, if they fall behind in the race against fate, they will fall into the abyss. You don't have to run anymore. I'm here, I'm always here, and I'll always protect you. His big hand fell on my head, with the warmth of his body temperature, a tenderness I had never experienced before. Protect me?
Forever?
A sickly person? The strength of 2 lifetimes was completely broken in this one night. In his arms, I laughed and cried bitterly. In fact, there was a moment when I wanted to dodge, perhaps because I felt that I was full of calculations and was not worthy of his sincerity. You married me. I should protect you. Very nice. When a person is trying to save himself, how lucky he is to encounter a gust of wind that is just right and be supported by that gentle wind. And his words are not false. After Shin Shinran's 3 maids died, were injured and became ill, and she declined all invitations to banquets due to poor health, my father finally sent someone to call me back home. At that time, Qi Yuan had just entered the palace, and I returned to the Shongshu mansion alone. My father deliberately left me alone for a long time, until the tea was completely cold, and then he called me into the study. He stood at the desk with his back to the door. The red light of the setting sun shone on his back through the window lattice. Perhaps the distance was not close enough, and I could not see my father clearly, because his light was flickering. Why don't you go see your sister? The thrush under the corridor is Shin Shinran's favorite. Its chirping is disturbing and annoying. Do you know anything about the torture that Ran is going through in Prince Qi's mansion? I ignored him and wondered why Shin Shinran didn't take away his favorite thrush. Oh, it's Qijan's heir who loves cleanliness and doesn't like animals. Unfortunately, he was covered in dirt when he died. Ran said that you set her up. Is that right or not? I was stunned and looked up to meet my father's cold face. Isn't it her single-minded wish to marry Prince Qi? What does it have to do with me? Or is it that father knows that he has plotted against the wrong heir and is unwilling to accept this? How outrageous. Father can do much more for my sister than this. For example, he watched my grandmother die for her. He made me lose everything for her. He stood on the side of Prince Qi for her, and so on. Asshole. A heavy slap landed on my face, and my cheeks suddenly felt burning with pain. After spitting out a mouthful of sweet fish, I smiled and said, in this way, we are even now. The relationship between Lord Shin and I as father and daughter ended on the day my mother was poisoned to death. Today's slap in the face just made me face the reality. How can it be considered my design if Lord Shin personally requested it? My lord, please remember that this slap today will not happen again otherwise. Otherwise, I will destroy this Shongshu mansion. Qi Yuan was still supported by Xie Yun, his pale face flushed with haste. His sharp eyes fell on Minister Shin's head like a sharp knife. Why don't you wait for me? I knew you would suffer the consequences. The coolness of his fingertips touched my hot cheeks, and it soothed my choked heart. Does it hurt? Why don't you know how to dodge? Can't you dodge and fight back? I smiled and shook my head. It doesn't matter. It has to happen eventually. I do have minions, but if I am always protected by others like this, I am really afraid that I will become dependent on them. I'll take you home. From now on, you will only have one home. If anyone again takes advantage of his age and tricks you out to embarrass you, I will bring this to my father and demand an explanation." Lord Shen's face turned pale, but he kept his body bent and did not dare to look up. As we walked through the corridor, Chi Yuan asked me, "Do you like thrush? I saw you looking at it several times just now." "I don't like it. It's too noisy." On the day my mother was poisoned to death, the thrush chirped in the house all night. I was held in the next room with my mouth covered, listening to it and my mother screaming all night long. Every time I see it, I seem to see the tragic scene of my mother, her face covered in blood, lying under the table with her eyes open in death. I want to kill it. Ling Yun, go. The thrush's voice suddenly stopped. My nightmare is over. Chi Yuan was impeached by Lord Shen for breaking into the Shangshu mansion and killing his beloved thrush. Chi Yuan covered his chest, which was coughing nonstop, and replied confidently, "I am weak and have caused trouble for the princess," which made Lord Shen unhappy. He called me back and punished me according to the family rules. In the final analysis, it is because I am useless and people look down on me. His Majesty was immediately furious and gave Lord Shen a long vacation. He also ordered Chi Yuan to reflect on his mistakes in seclusion. I don't mind. I can take this opportunity to help him recuperate. Shin Shinran came to my house under the pretext of visiting, and it made me unhappy. It was a May day, and she was wrapped in a long dress with long sleeves, with not an inch of her skin exposed. I knew that her life was not easy. "How did you do that? I've seen you. You're not hurt. He didn't do this to you. You just need to tell me, and I will ask my father to forgive you." I don't need anyone's forgiveness, because it is never wrong to forcefully fight for a place for yourself that is unfair. When it comes to the Shin family, a cup of tea becomes tasteless. I used the tea to write a huge word, "kill." She was stunned, and then yelled that I was playing a trick on her. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. She dragged her gorgeous dress, like a peacock showing off its might. Don't be so proud. Your Majesty's favorite is my husband now. As long as he wins the Emperor's heart, sooner or later you will kneel down and beg me. I heard that King Qing vomited blood several times. As someone who has experienced this, I can tell you that this is not a good sign. Sister, you'd better make plans as soon as possible. Without King Qing to protect you, your life will eventually fall into my hands. When that happens, I will return the pain I have inflicted upon you 100 times, 1,000 times. I am waiting for your death as king. I am waiting for you to kneel before me when you are a widow, and see how glorious I am when I am above everyone else. After Shin Shinran left, I looked at the bloody mess in my palm and put away the murderous intent in my eyes. What she didn't know was that if she said one more word, the cup in my hand would cut her face, leaving her with no face to leave. Shin Shinran did not sit and wait for death. She used her memories of her past life to find another way and brought all of Qizhan's capable men from his previous life to their presence in advance. Qizhan treated her differently, and she suffered less physical pain, so she became more and more proud. But my Qi Yuan, because of her curse, fainted in the Queen's Fingy Palace during the Dragon Boat Festival. The Emperor's face turned very bad because Qizhan was seriously ill. But when I knelt before him and presented Qizhan's wish and my request, he was shocked beyond words. Leaving Beijing to recuperate? Princess Chung, do you look down upon the medical skills of the imperial physicians in the capital, or do you think my son has a long life? Can you let me do that to you? I bowed my head to the ground and replied sincerely, "Your Highness's wish is to watch the flowers bloom and fall in the Tanshan Temple. Everything in the capital is good, but Your Highness is not interested in this. I beg Your Majesty to show mercy. Going to Tanshan Temple is to cut off your own future." The position of Crown Prince, the yellow robe, and His Majesty's high expectations were all given to others. The Emperor's face became more and more gloomy, and even lingered on me again and again with a look of exploration. I know he wants to kill me. This is exactly what the Emperor's suspicion is like. But the imperial physician's words put an end to all the Emperor's guesses. King Chung was poisoned. The fight for the throne was so brutal. King Cheng was weak and could not withstand repeated plots. How could the emperor not understand that he was fighting to the death just to survive? His body seemed to hunch over in an instant. There was a long silence before I retreated. But I know this is only the first time today. In Fingy Palace, the dignified queen had a cold expression on her face. I underestimated you. You have a very righteous mind. You just plotted against me. How many heads of yours can stand the torment? I straightened my back and looked him in the eye. Your Highness, do you really have no feelings for the prince? What I have given him is the highest nobility he can ever hope to achieve in his lifetime, so it is only right that he repays me a little. I shook my head, but chuckled and replied, Indeed. So, he entrusted his life to you. He knew Qi Yuan's body better than anyone else. The imperial physician's tricks and the queen's schemes, nothing could escape his eyes. He just saw through it and was deeply hurt. He knew that his sick body was caused by more than 10 years of medication, and that he was an unnecessary existence who was used as a shield to survive and pave the way for his brother. No one loves him, no one cares about him, so he doesn't care either. He owed the queen's life, and he could just return it to her, and they would be even. But that was in the previous life. In this life, he has me. He said he would protect me, but he didn't do it for my whole life. How could he die? The queen shook her body. He knows everything? He knows. Because he knows, he suffers. Because he knows, he endures silently. She was in a daze and couldn't come back to her senses. The fifth prince, who had not yet opened his residence, suddenly rushed out from behind the door and knelt down beside me. Mother, I can fight for it myself. I will study hard, listen to my teacher, and please my father. Please, mother, let my brother go. But I don't care. In my heart, he is my eldest brother. When I was young, I was weak, feared by the crown prince, and disliked by my father. Only my brother taught me to recite poems word by word, took me to ride horses and shoot arrows day by day, and encouraged me again and again that the future would be good. Mother, my brother used his flesh and blood to save my father, which is why you are now the queen, and I am honored. If I have to sit on my brother's corpse to get to that position, I won't want either this kingdom or this throne. My mother has told me that I have always been obedient. I only ask that you obey me this time. The queen was so frightened by the fifth prince's determination that she turned pale. She pointed at me and said, It was you? You called him here. It's me. It was me who brought the fifth prince here, and it was also me who poisoned Qi Yuan. The queen only knew how to use the emperor's guilt to gain power for herself and the fifth prince, but she always looked down on their brotherhood. Otherwise, Qi Zhan in his previous life would not have produced all the hard evidence that the queen had poisoned Qi Yuan at the last moment, causing the fifth prince, who was one step away from the throne, to abandon his country in great pain and go to the border alone. He never came back until my death. My queen, do you know that when brothers quarrel and mothers and children become alienated, who is the biggest winner? Facing her gaze, I politely handed her a booklet I had sorted out. My queen, the prince has no interest in the court, so please stop making wedding clothes for others. The thin book, with its profound story, opened her eyes. Without my Qi Zhan, you will never achieve success in this life. Shen Xinran's dream of becoming a queen will only be a big dream. When King Cheng and I received the imperial order to leave the capital, Shen Xinran and Shangshu Shen came to see us off for a while. Minister Shen stood with his hands behind his back, a look of disdain. I thought you were smart, but you're so stupid. You gave up your bright future and went to the deep mountains to learn how to practice. You brought shame to your father. Lord Shen is wrong. You are only the father of Princess Qi. I have severed my relationship with you long ago. Minister Shen choked and didn't dare to show off in front of everyone. Shen Xinran stood in front of me contentedly. You lost in the end. Look, we've already seen who's better. Yes, the most powerful people in the capital right now are Prince Qi and his wife. Looking around, the crown prince has been executed, Prince Cheng is left, and the fifth prince is underage. Only the popular Prince Qi is the most likely to inherit the throne. Therefore, all the flattery in the capital fell on Shinran like raindrops. She was proud and enjoying it. I have no idea what it means to cook oil over a raging fire. During our 3rd year at Tanshan Temple, all the remaining poison in Qi Yuan had been eliminated, and he could come and go freely, just like an ordinary person. Just to dispel other people's suspicion, he always pretends to be sick. At night, he would toss and turn in bed endlessly. If I had known you were so troublesome, I would have let you stay sick for a few more years. He bit my earlobe, breathed hot air, and replied teasingly, "It's not that the princess doesn't want to be a widow, so she can't wait to tie me up in Tanshan Temple and let you do whatever you want." This person, he is actually a shameless person. The former 5th prince is now Princein, and he writes a greeting letter every month without fail. The grand occasion in the capital is all under our control. I heard that several of Prince Qi's aides were busted for committing crimes, and Prince Qi was also reprimanded in front of His Majesty. With no place to vent his anger, it all fell on Shinran. I heard that her hearing is not very good now. At several palace banquets, when others greeted her, she acted as if she didn't hear them. I also heard that she fell a month ago and broke her leg, and now she is still lying in bed and unable to get up. I know all about her. She did not escape the bullying and torture that I had suffered. But she was not as decisive as I was and did not start a killing spree. Therefore, now all she has to do is endure it. She wrote to me several times, some of which were boastful, some were cursing, and some were begging. Qi Yuan burned them all up. It's an eyesore. Don't look at it. Look at me. I'm a little stronger now, right? The last time I met Shinran was at Prince An's wedding. Prince Qi finally couldn't stand seeing his right-hand men being eliminated one after another, and his status in the eyes of the emperor becoming lower and lower, so he followed the example of the crown prince and rebelled. When the rebel soldiers besieged the city, Shinran looked haggard, but she put on the queen's dress and sat upright in the hall, waiting for Prince Qi to accomplish his great cause so that she could enter the imperial palace. But the one who came was me. Qi Yuan led his troops into the imperial city, killed Qi Zhan, suppressed the rebellion, and saved the emperor. Why is it you? Where is the prince? The prince should come back to pick me up. I'm going to be the queen. Ha 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 ha, I'm going to be the queen. I sneered back. He lost. Impossible. He is destined to be the emperor, and he also has his father's full support. How could he fail? It's all thanks to the right-hand man you helped him select. She was confused and looked at me blankly. After a long time, she gradually came to her senses. Is it you? Is this your plan? How dare you? How could you? Facing her fear, I smiled ostentatiously. Of course it's me. Those right-hand men who were highly valued by Qi Zhan in his previous life could not be deceived by her with just a few big promises. In my previous life, I spent a lot of effort to force those people to side with King Qi by using many leverages and weaknesses against them. As for the leverage to drive and control them, I had given them all to the queen long before I secured freedom for my husband. Their plans and their every move could not escape the queen's eyes. It is natural that a military defeat will happen at the edge of success. She finally fell to the ground, muttering to herself, "Impossible. How could I lose to you and my life in every life? He loves you, values you, and even fears you. But he treats me. He only plays with and uses you because you are not cruel enough." I asked her to kill it cleanly. She didn't do it, but I did. In my previous life, I knew I had no way out the day Lord Shin clearly rejected me. Only then did he fight Qi Zhan to the death. Every time he attacked me, I would kill one of his favorites when he was in court. After returning home on the first day, he hugged Xiaoba and cried loudly. He beat me so hard that there was not a single piece of intact skin left, and even 2 of my back teeth fell out. But I didn't beg for mercy. I even laughed out loud with a mouthful of blood. When he went to court the next day, I killed his little 7 and little 6 and placed them neatly in front of the gate. He collapsed and hit me on the head with the candlestick, so I lost the hearing in my left ear forever. I was tied up and frozen in the snow for half the night, but I didn't beg for mercy. I stared at him like a hungry wolf. When he went to court for the third time, I slit the throats of his children Xiaowu, Xiaoxi, and Heir, and threw them on the street. The rain washed their blood all over the streets. He stepped in the bright red blood, trembling all over, and started fighting with me. I screamed in pain, but laughed with tears in my eyes. When you come back tomorrow, none of your 8 favorites will be left. Ada and Xiao Sen knelt beside him, crying and begging. Master, help me. Master, help me. Princess, please spare me. Princess, please spare me. They were afraid and cowardly. They begged him and also begged me. But I just laughed until Qijian was terrified, laughed until Qijian lost his arrogance, and finally fell down in front of me and admitted defeat. I was wrong. I admit defeat. Please let them go. Please. Look, the only way to deal with a cruel person is to be crueler than him. Later on, Qijian treated me with respect. I didn't care about his other love affairs, and he didn't interfere in my daily life. We even reached a consensus on our grand ambitions. He is ruthless and I am vicious, and that's how we walked to the top of the Forbidden City hand in hand. Shin Shinran shook her head woodenly. Impossible. I have done everything you have done, even more than you. How can it be different? I should also be the queen. He said that as long as I obey him, I will be his queen, and I will have my dignity. It must be you who did something wrong. It must be you. I sighed and told her something she didn't know in her past life. Do you know who helped him overthrow the queen and prince in his past life? She looked at me incredulously. Impossible. You are not that capable. It's not you. It's not you. You swordsman, you are talking nonsense. You are hurting me. You are hurting me. I will kill you. I will kill you. She screamed and shrieked hysterically and was knocked unconscious by Xialing Yun's knife. I planned bit by bit to become the queen in my previous life, and I also planned bit by bit to become the idol princess in this life. I believe in fate, but she doesn't know that my life has always been in my own hands. What I believe in is always myself. On the day when the entire Shin family was executed, I happened to be diagnosed with the disease. Qi Yuan held me in his arms. The world is big. Life is long. We have a lifetime to tell stories slowly. Yes, life is long. Fortunately, this life is different. Over.